Welcome to ForexTV.com. Today's Thursday, June 11th. I'm Tim Kelly with your New York Forex Market Buzz. Dollar is trading lower at mid-session as traders interpret economic data on jobless claims and retail sales in a positive light. In addition, jobs data out of Australia and GDP numbers out of Japan were better than expected, got things moving in the overnight. Crude and gold futures are also trading higher. Today we're joined by David Watts, senior currency strategist at RBC Capital Markets. David, welcome.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
David, we got a bit of an explosion in risk trade and a dollar sell-off today. Do you suppose this is all about the data? Because the data wasn't all that good if you look into it on the U.S. side. What's your take?
No, I think you're right. It wasn't all that good, especially if you take away autos, gasoline, and building materials, which gets to what we think is like core retail sales. It was flat. So when you look at it on a year-on-year basis, and it looks absolutely abysmal. So not great for the U.S. consumer, but the headlines were good, and it seems like people right now aren't prepared to scratch much below the headlines on many things. They're looking for green shoots, and they'll look for green shoots or glimmers of hope anywhere they can find them, and overlook maybe some of the inconvenient facts.
Okay, and right now, equities just taking off. It remains to be seen where we're going to finish here after yesterday's performance. But what do you make of the Treasury auctions this week, and especially the 30-year today, which was well bid, and that effect on the currencies?
Yeah, well, it's again showing strong demand. I mean, one of the things going into the Treasury auctions, not just this week but last week as well, was the concern about whether or not foreign investors were starting to step back from the U.S. Treasury market, and it's clear that they aren't. But to an extent that's almost not having much of an impact on the U.S. dollar right now, because it seems to show that there's still strong demand from foreigners for U.S. Treasuries, and instead of providing any solace to the U.S. dollar, it seems to be dominated by other factors and has people just willing to sell the U.S. dollar no matter what right now.
David, what do you think? Going forward of this this dollar sell-off, we've seen a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Do you think it's got legs?
The sell-off?
The dollar sell-off.
Yeah. Well, again, it's going to be very tied. Like everything is sort of tied to sentiment. Like we sort of thought there was going to be a break between risk sentiment and the dollar with the non-farm payrolls last week, and instead, what we're starting to see again is that green shoots, good news elsewhere, and any good news from the United States is basically taken as a reason to go long other currencies. And people just aren't looking for reasons to sell other currencies yet. So we're not getting fear coming back into markets. And with stocks now, the S&P above 950, we had that a few days of like, okay, the stock market rally is going to start running out of momentum or not. And if it begins to have a correction, then we could get a bounce in the U.S. dollar. And instead, we're getting, from news overnight and everything else, just signs that maybe the equity rally still has some legs to it. I still think that there's a correction coming, but the power of these recent trends is such that you just don't want to stand in the way of them. And when they start going, they can be quite powerful. I think that's one of the reasons why the U.S. dollar is selling off so sharply today.
No doubt. Well, we've got oil and gold helping out the commodities complexes, so it looks like it's the perfect storm against the dollar, and certainly risk trades and just across the board.
Yeah.
David, what do you see as for rest of this week and maybe into next week as a catalyst?
Well, you have to continue to watch just any of the news that comes out. Like I think we're going to start getting some weaker macroeconomic news, but we've had a number of central bank meetings and nobody's really said much. We do have the G7 G8 finance ministers this weekend, but it doesn't look like they're going to talk about FX because the central bank governors aren't there. And I thought that might have been a perfect opportunity to have some commentary about the dollar, and it looks like they're going to not basically do that. Again, you just have to watch these markets. Like I think there is going to be at some point a trigger for a reversal or a retracement, in some of these risk trades, and when it comes, it could be quite violent. But right now, it just doesn't look like anything's going to happen, and you are sort of starting to see some divergences. Like the RBNZ overnight, the central bank governor there was asked a question about the QE. And he basically said, it gets at a level that makes it a threat to our economy, but there's nothing we'll do about it. And the Kiwi just bolted. We've got similar situation possibly happening in Canada in about an hour or so, where the central bank governor is sure to be asked a pointed question about the Canadian dollar. Bank of Canada has just reiterated today that the Canadian dollar is one of the key risks to a recovery in the Canadian economy later this year. And so I think they'll be asked, what are you prepared to do about it? And if he says nothing, the Canadian dollar might pull. So, there's just nothing really that's coming out that's stopping a lot of these trends.
Right. Well, it's a little dangerous for anyone to stand in front of it. Not to mention a government official.
And it's risky to play it too.
Very risky to play it, and risky on both sides.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll leave it at it is a sentiment play here, and we'll see how things work out at the close today.
Yeah, exactly. I think you made the right point there. It's sentiment and psychology, not necessarily facts and figures. Which means sentiment and psychology can change quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a tough market to trade. David, I appreciate you sharing your insights today.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks again for joining us. This has been your New York Forex Market Buzz with David Watt, Senior Currency Strategist at RBC Capital Markets. I'm Tim Kelly. Join us later this afternoon for PM Exchange right here on ForexTV.com.